Welcome back to another installment of Honest and Uneducated, the show where we talk about anything from movies, movie news, video games, television, comic books, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Joining me today is none other than Rick Metz himself. How you doing today, Rick?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Other than there being a really slow news week, everything's been going pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we also have Mr. John Knight here. How you doing, John?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, guys, actually, real quick too, just off the top, you can submit topics and questions to us that we can cover on the show just by emailing us at honestanduneducated@gmail.com. That's honestanduneducated@gmail.com. Other than that, guys, let's get into this news story. I think the first one that we're gonna do, which is really like the biggest news that we've had all week, is the Tom Hollands Spider-Man 3 movie. As we've had some interesting development with it because Jamie Foxx is said to return to reprise his role supposedly from the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man 2, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film, which is an interesting choice to say the least, just because the Amazing Spider-Man 2 movie was kind of unanimously not very well received by both critics and fans. Not that like Jamie
Yeah.
Foxx or Andrew Garfield was like the problem with it, but like overall, it wasn't necessarily a very good movie. I think most people would kind of agree on, and I think one of the weaker parts of the movie itself was the Electro character. Not that Jamie Foxx was a problem, it was just very poorly written.
Yeah.
It was just like his character was, like, just out of a completely different movie. Like, when you compare it to how the Lizard was in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, Jamie Foxx's portrayal of Electro and how they wrote him was more of like a Batman and Robin kinda character,
Yeah.
as
I could
opposed
see
to,
that.
a more grounded approach they took in Amazing Spider-Man 1. Even just in the overall tone, let alone just how, like, the Lizard was. So, the way I see it with this, it brings up a lot of interesting theories, right? And I think, 'cause I guess we should say first offhand that it hasn't been 100% confirmed to my knowledge that Jamie Foxx is actually playing Electro. It's just been kind of presumed.
Like a rumor.
So I actually have something on that. I haven't seen it personally, but I did see an article that said that Jamie Foxx actually did confirm it on his personal Instagram the same day that this news broke. Like I think this broke on Friday, and maybe like Friday evening, he put something on his own personal Instagram. It was then deleted, but he said that he would be reprising his role as he would be running it back as Electro, but this time he wouldn't be blue. Which then brings him more in line with the typical Electro, which has always been more of a yellow and black motif than
Right.
blue.
The blue one, though, was like the Ultimate Spider-Man, if I'm not
Exactly.
mistaken, right?
The blue one is very much pulled from the Ultimate, and even the character itself, the way he portrayed him was more the kind of lonely outcast that he portrayed, and came more from, I think, the Ultimate line. Didn't work as well though live screen, I think.
My question is, Rob, did you say that he's reprising his role?
I mean, yeah, that's what it's been. That's what they've been saying.
Is this like a continuation then of that story from the Amazing Spider-Man 2? Because that wouldn't make sense, I don't feel like.
Well, that's the unknown. Like that's the thing that brings in a lot of other questions because it'd be weird because on the one hand you could have it where he's reprising the role, so it's the same exact Electro character just facing off against another Spider-Man thing, so like doing some type of multiverse or Spider-Verse type of thing. The other hand is just you bring Jamie Foxx back just to play a new version of Electro, which
sounds like
it's kind of odd to do that.
Yeah,
like not that it's unheard of, but it'd be.
It's not even unheard of in this series because they brought J. Jonah Jameson out of the first 3 Spider-Man films to reprise his role, and it's or I guess it's not unclear at this point, but he's playing a version of J. Jonah Jameson, but it doesn't look like he's just the continuation out of the Raimi Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's not like the same character, but
But it is the same character.
Yeah.
Though, because it's the same guy playing him. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like you walk a fine line of it being, is it the same character or a completely different character? Because if it's the same exact person, I mean, you could always argue, I guess, like the multiple worlds theory, to where it's like it's the same guy, he got the same powers, he just acts completely different. I just find that to be a
Yeah.
little like, why would you go through all the effort of doing it at that point? Because if you want to use Electro, just use Electro.
I think people just really like seeing him as J. Jonah Jameson, though. Like he fits the character very well.
Oh yeah, but if anybody to bring back and not recast, J. Jonah Jameson was like the one.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think the same could be said for Jimmy Fox's Electro.
It's not that memorable. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if anything, like I said, like at least in my opinion, that was like along with Paul Giamatti's Rhino and even Dane DeHaan's Goblin was none of it was done well. So I don't think anyone's been clamoring
The
to see.
Goblin character was very strange.
Yeah, no one's been clamoring to see any of those characters return. I mean, I would have liked to have seen Andrew Garfield continue to be Spider-Man again, but that movie itself was just, I mean, it was enough for them to reboot the entire franchise. I mean, if that tells
He
you
did
anything,
make a good
so.
Spider-Man.
He was a great Spider-Man.
He looked like him. Like that's what I would imagine live action Spider-Man being, even more so than Tom Holland. Like
Right. Well, and that's what brings up the question, because if it's with Jamie Foxx being back now, everyone has been wondering since Sony made the animated Spider-Verse movie if they were ever gonna make a live action Spider-Verse movie
that'd be interesting.
and like bring back Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man and maybe Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and have them all, you know, on screen in some Spider-Verse movie with Tom Holland. And I think the majority of people probably would have said there's no way, like no way in hell that's going to happen. Like, why would they do that? It's too confusing and it's kind of campy and cheesy, and it would work as like a YouTube sketch or something, but full feature length movie. Like, you know, as it's more gimmicky than anything you would think. Yeah. But I mean, now with Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, all bets are kind of off. Like, what do you think the odds are that we do see, like, one of the, you know, Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire coming back, or even them just doing a, like, building towards a Spider-Verse movie? Because another thing that could be happening is Doctor Strange and like the Multiverse of Madness, right? The sequel to Doctor Strange is literally called the Multiverse of Madness, and we know that the Scarlet Witch WandaVision show is supposed to tie into Multiverse of Madness in some way, and like I guess both of those movies are going to be preceding Spider-Man 3. So, what are the odds that maybe the MCU is leaning more heavily into the multiverse than we kind of, I don't know, have been led to believe in some way? Not that I mean, they always play their cards close to the vest, so I mean, no one really knows. We just have like the title and know that it's going to kind of bleed over. But like, what are the odds that they just lean into that and bring in and do like a Spider-Verse movie, but more on the crux of the Multiverse of Madness kind of thing, as opposed to some Spider-Verse like redo?
Yeah, like the animated.
Yeah. You know?
Well, I love the idea of them doing an all-out multiverse, and you know, then you're not confined by this is our timeline, this is what has happened. Is, you know, these characters can't come back because they're dead or whatever, or you have to come up with some convoluted way to resurrect characters. Part of me wonders if they're really willing to jump that deep into it, because at the end of the day, you're right, it can get confusing to people to see. Like, let's say they bring Topher Grace back to nobody's asking for that, but what if he comes back as Eddie Brock, and then you've got Tom Hardy's Venom running into Topher Grace's Venom,
destroy him.
Or James Franco comes back as the Goblin
Sure.
Kid, with his flying snowboard.
Yeah.
Great
I think people are gonna be like, well, wait a minute, I guess I get the idea of multiple versions of these characters, but this is a little much.
Right, because I could see them doing something like that for, you know, like when the Flash is running through the Speed Force and you just get a glimpse of like another world. Yeah. Like I could see them doing something like that, or even like when Doctor Strange gets pushed through by the Ancient One through like all the other dimensions and stuff. Like as he's tumbling through, like, oh, there was Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, cool.
Yeah.
But like making a whole movie, like I don't know. It just becomes convoluted. like more so than anything. Not that it couldn't be pulled off, and it'd be pretty cool. Like I definitely would say, like a Spider-Verse movie would work, but is it really like needed? Like I don't know. I guess no movie is really needed, but I don't know.
I'm also wondering too, like the multiverse of madness that they gave that subtitle that they gave to the next Doctor Strange. If it does tie into Wanda, if WandaVision ends up being a multiversal type show where they explore different realities, just the word mind or verse of madness, the madness idea. I'm wondering if that's more happening in Wanda's head, and maybe it's affecting reality to a certain extent, but that's more her affecting reality than it is them actually jumping full into an entire multiverse. Maybe she's just imagining these alternate realities in her head, but they're not willing to go, okay, these all exist. And
right. That's the thing is like it's gonna be hard to say. We'll probably have a better idea of where they could go, like how far they're willing to go after we see WandaVision, maybe. But
sure.
I mean, they haven't really.
There's a lot they could do with that.
There's so much they could do. They could. That's the thing. I always imagine too if they were going to do anything as far as multiverse related. I don't know, WandaVision in relation to like the multiverse of madness thing. I figured House of M would be the most logical way to go, not necessarily completely redo everything to the extent that she did in the comics, but no, it's just weird that the first sign of anything is Jamie Foxx's Electro.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're gonna bring someone back to reprise a role like J. Jonah Jameson, I can't remember his name right now, but bringing him back, J.K. Simmons, yeah, bringing him back, of course, you know what I mean.
People
that
are
makes
itching
sense.
to see Jamie Foxx back as Electro. Like
No one is.
Not that I know of.
And of all those ex Spider-Man people to bring back, why not Molina, like Doc Ock? Why not bring that guy back to do it? Why not bring Willem Dafoe as like Norman Osborn back? Like those are characters that were like
memorable.
Yeah, they were done well in the movie, and like Willem Dafoe's suit wasn't very good, but
maybe it's the idea that they didn't do well with Jamie Foxx. They did so poorly with that character that they wanted that he was interested in doing it again, and they were interested in trying to give him a chance to give him a better, what am I looking for? A better story to work with.
Right.
Like Willem Dafoe might have been like, "Hey, look, I'm good. I did it. I think I was pretty happy with it." Same with Doc Ock, Molina. He might have been like, "Hey, look, that's a pretty universally acclaimed movie. There, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm good."
Yeah.
Well, I could see too. No one's really like talked about this. I don't know if like would have anything to do with it, and who would know. But I'm wondering if like maybe back in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 days, I wonder if like he had like some byline in his contract. Like, what if he was like somewhat contractually obligated to reprise Electro in some ways?
True.
Like, not that because it's always typically an option, like at the studio's discretion, like if to have that person come back. You know, it's technically speaking, but every contract that these people make are different. Like their agent could have like slipped something in there that said like, you know, 2 pictures minimum for him to do, like, or you can't use the character like at all. Like, I'm wondering if maybe they were like forced to in some
because it was the writing necessarily. It wasn't like his acting.
Jamie Foxx is an awesome actor.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. I don't think anybody would argue that he's an Oscar-winning actor, right? Like he won for Ray, did he not? Like he won Best Actor. Like he's a fantastic actor, and I like him and everything. He was good. He's good in everything he's in, other than honestly, like he was actually. It's not that he was bad as Electro. It's just they wrote that character so poorly.
Yeah.
Like he did a fine job playing a very shitty character. It was just the character that wasn't very. The character definitely didn't leave anybody asking for more. Like, and that's why I just think it's the oddest thing, like to bring him back. In any way, really. And I feel like it's more isn't it more odd to bring him back to play like a completely different Electro? Like if it's not gonna be the same, because if it's not gonna be the same character, why bring Jamie Foxx back altogether? Like, unless there was some contractual obligation thing, like that
Well,
makes him have to be Electro again if they're going to use Electro.
with like J.K. Simmons and J. Jonah Jameson, there's not much else that character is. Like, he is who he is. With the Electro thing, you could do a totally different like style of character, whatever. And I don't know.
Well, and to be fair, beyond God, his name just left my head. Beyond Tom Holland playing Spider-Man, Tom Holland was pretty unknown when they cast him, but they've cast pretty decent named villains as our actors as the villains in these movies so far. I mean, you had Michael Keaton in the first one, and then you had
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah, thanks, in the last one. So maybe it was just like you said. Maybe they had a contract with Fox. They were like, we're going to stick with this idea that we're bringing in a well-known actor to play a role, and this is the direction we want to go. So why not do it with them?
What do you think they are like? The end game is to actually like do like some Spider-Verse kind of stuff, though.
I don't know.
Like, or do you think like if you had to guess, this is gonna be because we're not gonna know like until I don't know. I guess the movie comes out or we just get more word that this is 100% the same Electro, or if it's just the same actor playing a completely different character. Like you had to guess if you were in charge of Sony, which way are you going with that?
I'd say he's totally different.
Yeah, I'm with Rik. He's Electro, but he's not the Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I would kind of, if I was that Sony, I feel like I would have to go the other way with it. Because I feel like in my mind, there's like no reason to bring Jamie Foxx back at that point. Like other than, yeah, he's a fantastic actor, but you could, like you were kind of saying, Tom Holland was relatively unknown. And like unknowns are a lot cheaper for the studio than now you got to bring Jamie Foxx back, pay him top dollar to come back and do this. Not that he wouldn't want to do it, but he's going to ask for more than a lot of other unknown people would.
Although, I mean, doing this, the other side of that coin, I guess, is that how many people are going to be interested in what in the hell is going on now? Like, the whole idea that they're doing this is so out there and weird and strange that buzz, that interest may be what they were looking for.
Well, you don't think though, too, like in the end, like since like we were saying, it wasn't a very like well received character or anything. Do you think it would kind of hurt the hype for it though? Because in my mind,
have negative feelings about it. So
that's
true.
Yeah, because like I mean, like in my mind, when I first heard the news, I was just like, character sucked. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, I don't like the only thing that I was actually excited about was cool. Then presumably it's not going to be an angry Tony Stark ex-employee that Tom Holland's going to fight again. So like that's the only benefit of him coming back as the villain in some way. Like unless I guess they could still weave that in somehow, but I don't know. I guess given his power set, I could see like him being able to do something like multiverse related. Like, like if they want to like cheese some fake science thing into like his electrical current transferred through this and that, and now he's in every dimension or something, like a piece of him everywhere. Like you can make something up. It's comic book stuff.
Yeah,
sure.
But what if he does come back and play the same role? Like if it's an actual reprisal, what are the odds that we see a Spider-Verse movie like with Tom or with Andrew Garfield reprising the role of Peter Parker and or Tobey Maguire?
Toby, yeah.
So it's an interesting question. Obviously, we have this kind of I don't know if schism's the right word, but this idea that Sony kind of Disney wants a bigger piece of the Spider-Man pie, but Sony still holds all the rights. And I wonder if there's some sort of idea or deal in place where Sony retains or Marvel is able to continue using Tom Holland in their movies, but Sony wants to bring in the Miles Morales version of Spider-Man and start producing their own standalone movies apart from the MCU with him, so that they can work him into the Venom verse and stuff like that. That would allow if they do jump into the multiverse and they do bring Miles in, then you can end up having Miles Morales end up in Tom Hardy's Spider-Man or Venom movies, and then you don't necessarily need Peter because you've got that Spider-Man character still showing up.
Well,
True.
that's the thing too. I'm kind of thinking that, like, because I think we talked about this a week or so ago. Like, I think they're it's like just merging that stuff all like outright because of Michael Keaton showing up in that Morbius trailer.
That's
Like,
right.
it seems like because you can't have Michael Keaton be Vulture in one movie and then Tom Holland not be Spider-Man in that movie. Like, it goes hand in hand at that point. Which that's why the Jamie Foxx playing Electro with Tom Holland as Spider-Man is like a wild card because there has to be some sort of explanation as to how he's here. So if it's not multiverse related, I guess you could just trying to explain to somebody that it's like the multiple worlds theory. I think is more complicated for people than just saying like it's like multiverse stuff. So he's here now. Like I don't know. Especially like I just can't imagine them bringing him back and like making his electricity yellow instead of blue, and like he's a
Yeah,
completely different guy, acts completely different, and he still calls himself Electro, but it's the same guy.
but he's not
It's
blue anymore.
yeah, but he's yellow now. It's
Yeah,
like okay, like it'd be one thing if it was a different actor doing it. Like I could totally see them going that route, but like no, I think it's like, I know I've kinda said that I'm, kind of against the multiverse, Spider-Verse thing happening in some ways just because it can be just, like, a slippery slope of, like, cheesiness in some degree, but if you're gonna bring a character like this back, like, I feel like you gotta go all in on it and just make it good. You know,
yeah,
like, if
Yeah.
you're gonna bring him back, then go all in on the multiverse stuff and, like, bring Andrew Garfield into it or bring Tobey Maguire into it or just you don't have to bring either of them into it, but just lean heavy into the fact that, like, something happened in the multiverse, and now we have villains that are from a different reality, being like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Like, because you can have fun with that, you know what I mean?
you could.
Like Jamie Foxx's character, like obviously hates Spider-Man to some degree, so he comes like to this world and he sees Spider-Man, and it's like they can have nice dialogue with each other, just like. But Tom Holland's like, I don't even know who you are, like Thanos, you know, like, but he's all mad at him. Like, I don't even know who you are. Like,
So we were talking about like how they need more content for these streaming services that are out there. Do you think this is a way for Sony to, if they do bring Jamie Foxx over as Electro from Amazing Spider-Man 2, do you think this is a way for them to possibly do an Amazing Spider-Man 3 to wrap up that story on whatever Sony's streaming platform is?
I mean, the possibility is always there. I would somehow, I would think it'd be more likely for them to do the Miles Morales thing instead of that, though,
Yeah,
just
that's what I would
because,
say.
like, I don't know. I feel like it's easier and like not so much easier, but like I don't know. It's like I guess they're bringing. I was going to use the example of like you don't want two different Batman movies coming out at the same time. You know what I mean? But then I thought like, well, Ben Affleck is coming back as Batman in the Flash movie, and Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman in the Flash movie, and Robert Pattinson is playing Batman in a
And
Batman
is that,
movie.
yeah,
So I don't know because like I've always said, the fans aren't like stupid, and the people watching these like that's what everyone would always complain about. Is just like, oh, things are like too confusing and stuff. And I don't really mean confusing when I was saying it before. It's not so much confusing for like the fans to understand. It's just the story becomes confusing, like plot hole wise. I guess I should kind of elaborate on that because things just kind of get messy when you use like time travel and multiverse stuff because it's more or less just like lazy writing in some ways
Yeah,
because any plot hole you have, you just say, "Oh, it was because of time travel, though." Like that's why that doesn't make any sense at all. Like, it's multiverse stuff. That explains why we wrote it that way. Duh. Like, what I mean, it's just
yeah.
kind of it can become a lazy way of writing. Not so much like
blame it on time travel. Like,
exactly. Not so much as confusing for people to understand because like the fans aren't stupid. Anybody going to watch, you know, this Spider-Man movie is gonna have seen Multiverse of Madness more than likely, at least a
you
large
would think so.
majority of them. So if there was like a tie-in there, I think the MCU alone has proven because they have it all connected that like people are paying attention to some degree. So I don't know. I just feel like in the end, like if you're gonna bring him back, just go all in with the multiverse stuff thing. Because like once you start to try to do it in any other way, not that I would mind him just coming back because he's like a great actor and playing Electro again, but I'd almost rather him to see him play something completely different. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think you could do a lot more with it, and you go so many more places. Like just in the future, if you say like, no, it's the same guy. Like he could still act completely different though. Like if they do have him come back and play the exact same character, I hope they write him better. Like
Yeah,
I'd be totally like he's evolved over time. You know, maybe he's not as such a dweeby little
yeah.
bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, like
He was pretty.
but that would be my only hope is that no matter what they do, is they just write it better. What do you think too? If like, what if Kevin Feige's just like he all fucked up that stuff? So just watch how we do it. I'll even
True.
bring Jamie Foxx back. Yeah, that
Just to prove
shitty
my
character.
point,
Yeah, just to
yeah.
show you how good we are at telling these stories. Okay,
Yeah.
like I can see that happening too. Like I don't know, but I imagine in the end, though, in all reality, they have to have some sort of idea for this. I just don't see why you would go back and like bring someone back to do this. Like unless they had some sort of idea. Like I don't see the MCU just
Oh.
throwing someone in there for campy reasons. Like just for
No,
like
I
cuteness. Like
I believe no, you're exactly right. They have a plan. There is a definite plan for why he is showing up. And I mean the other thing that kind of is interesting about this whole thing is how much longer is Tom Holland's Spider-Man going to be a part of the MCU? What's the new deal that's in place between them, and how long does it? I mean, last I heard, it only exists for one more Spider-Man movie, and I'm guessing maybe a Marvel movie as well. But you know,
Let's say, I
how
don't
much
know.
longer is he going to be around?
I think Tom Holland, I get the vibe that he'd probably play Spider-Man as long as he can play Spider-Man.
Sure.
Milk
You
it.
know, like as long as they'd want him to. Like,
Yeah.
You know, because I
As
mean,
long as Sony and Marvel can.
yeah,
He's definitely the most like popular iteration of Spider-Man, I would say.
yeah,
Like over the years.
yeah. I mean, definitely the most. I don't know, probably well received. Yeah. I mean, everybody really loved Tobey Maguire, and he's probably my least favorite Spider-Man. Even though, like, his Spider-Man 2 movie is still probably the best one. Like to this day, it's still the best Spider-Man movie, I'd say. Even though he's my least favorite Spider-Man himself, but I don't know.
All right,
Quite
there's
intriguing.
what? There's 7 Spider-Man movies. Is that right? The 3.
The 3 Raimi ones, the 2. Yeah, there's 7. Yeah.
7. So, can you rank them real quick? What's your ranks?
Okay, I can
Is
start
that
from.
too much on the spot?
No, this is it's actually easy. I'll start from the bottom.
Okay.
So Spider-Man 3, Raimi Spider-Man
sure.
3 is the worst Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. I agree.
Then, this is a tough
Amazing
call. Then probably
Spider-Man.
Amazing Spider-Man 2. Then, then it gets kind of. You could honestly trade the rest out to some degree, other than number 1 probably being Spider-Man 2. I would say probably then, if I had to, I'd go like Homecoming, Far From Home, Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man 2. Probably how I'd
Yeah.
go. Like
I'd
maybe I
have-
might switch Homecoming and Spider-Man 2 though around, or Spider-Man 1. I don't know. Like,
I'd put Amazing Spider. I think I'd put Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man 1, then maybe Homecoming, Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Far From Home, and then the rest of the Raimi ones. I
haven't
The-
watched the Raimi ones in probably 10 years, so I probably should watch them before I definitively say.
It would be interesting to like see it again.
they're good, and I'm really fond of them because at the time, like, I never thought I'd see a Spider-Man movie. That was
That's
so
how I felt.
like,
Mhm.
yeah, you were never going to get those. But so the fact that they exist at all is amazing. No pun intended. But they
See, I always wanted the new Spider-Man series to be called Spectacular Spider-Man because of that. Because they went
Spectacular.
Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, and then they should have gone Spectacular Spider-Man, and then made Miles and just did Ultimate Spider-Man like they were supposed to. Like that just
Yep.
made the most logical sense to me, but they never.
yeah. But the dialogue in those Raimi Spider-Man movies, some of that is really hard to get through. As
Yeah.
bad as the characters were written in Amazing Spider-Man at some points, at least their dialogue came off somewhat natural. Some of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man dialogue is just
It's
really,
super cheesy.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't know if overall I would like.
the
It's just
Goblin
hard to say.
costume in Spider-Man
I know
One.
it
Like,
sucked. It did suck.
It was wild at the time. Like as a kid, I thought it was sweet.
But even then, it's just because the internet wasn't a big thing. Like people really hated it because his face. I didn't like it either as a kid because I
Just
was
like,
like, his face is so like you don't get anything out of his face.
Yeah.
Like
No.
it's just a mask. It's a helmet. It
Yeah.
looks like a motorcycle helmet. Like it's just like, and then like Willem Dafoe's in there talking, but the whole time you just see that face. Like,
Yeah.
and you get nothing out of it. And it's just a shame because you have Willem Dafoe, one of the most expressive faces
Oh,
like,
for sure.
in the world. You could have just painted him green and just let him go. Like it would have been perfect. But they put the stupid helmet on. I don't know. I probably do. I probably would put the Amazing Spider-Man 1 as like number 2 because I think Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire's, despite like I said, I don't really care for Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker all that much. But that was still like overall, I think the most.
You didn't
well
like his
done.
symbiotic Spider-Man? The
No,
dance?
Spider-Man. It's like I don't know what they were thinking with that movie. Like I know like the problems that went into making it on Raimi's end because like he was forced to include Venom and stuff, but I don't really think that it's still no excuse to make a shit movie. Like if the studio is mandating you to use Venom, then make a good Venom movie. Make a good movie with Venom in it. Don't just write it in and make it crappy just because it wasn't your initial plan. You know, not that
Well,
I'm blaming him for it. I wasn't there. I don't know what the problem was like altogether, but
they went so far away from the comic. Like Eddie Brock, to cast Topher Grace as Eddie Brock was just such a weird choice, and it was. I get what he was trying to do. The kind of the parallel Peter Parker.
Right.
Tobey Maguire and Topher Grace have similar builds. They have similar mannerisms. I get what he was going for with that. This is the other Spider-Man, but it just didn't. It was such a diversion from what they did in the comics, and I think what people wanted to see out of Venom. It just it didn't work well.
Yeah, because like what's his name? Thomas Hayden Church, like a Sandman, he was great in that movie.
Yeah.
Like he was great. Like the character was great. He acted it well. The character was written well. Like
No,
that was all fine.
That was the stuff, like you said, that was the stuff that Raimi cared about, and it was the other stuff that was forced on him that just comes off as odd.
Yeah, like it's
disruptive to the narrative.
100%. Especially like you said, Rick, the dancing, emo Peter Parker was terrible. Everybody knows it. Like it's not even the fact that it was just so like bad. It was just so out of character in every way. Like it's even for the movie, like the movie that they were like literally presenting you, it comes out of nowhere.
It does.
Like even with him being like corrupted by the symbiote and all this stuff, it's like what happens with it like still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like for it all to like just happen the way it does.
I feel like somebody should have sat Raimi down and said, here's Superman 3. Watch Superman 3. This is how you do an evil version of your character.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
because that was the now Superman 3 had its issues too, but
right. I mean,
the evil Superman was.
Yeah, it's been too long since I've seen that to even be able to weigh in on it. I don't remember it being liked very well either. But
Richard Pryor and the evil computer that Superman fights. Yeah,
right.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah. I think more people were mad about the Richard Pryor stuff and just him being in it too. Like for some reason, if I remember correctly, it's been like 10, 15 years since I've seen it. But people like his character, it was the same kind of concept. Like his character didn't fit with what they were doing by Superman. But Richard Pryor's great though. Like, but I don't know. I guess I just hope with the whole. I kind of want I never would have said it before, but in the end, at this point, with them bringing Jamie Foxx back, I'm leaning more towards just wanting a Spider-Verse movie at this point now. I just feel like it would make.
I'm also curious if Sony will let that happen because Into the Spider-Verse did so well. They've already announced that they're doing a sequel for it. Do they want to have a live version and a animated version going on at the same time, competing with each other?
Well, it would depend on if because I don't think they would market it as like being Spider-Verse as much as it's an actual multiverse kind of thing happen. That's why I feel like it would make the most sense, because you just had Mysterio in there with the fake multiverse stuff, but then you have the Doctor Strange movie coming out that's actually going to address like real multiverse stuff.
Yeah.
So it's the Spider-Man like continuity with Tom Holland is already familiar with the concept of the multiverse because of Mysterio, even though it was fake. No one knew it was fake until the end of the movie. So once you see the Doctor Strange stuff and it actually is a thing, I don't know, you could just easily weave that narrative in together and it make sense, because like in some ways it already would kind of make sense just because of Mysterio. You just kind of lean more into it. Like I could see him doing something like more like the Flash is doing with Flashpoint with like the Batmans, like Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield could come in or just be in a quick scene and just be there, but not necessarily do the whole. I don't know. I'd kind of love to see like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man work with Tom Holland Spider-Man, though. I think it'd actually be a lot of fun.
So while you're talking about this, I'm running through scenario. What if that is it? What if he has to? What if in the Andrew Garfield the future of his Spider-Man, his identity was outed? Because that's something they're going to have to deal with, is the fact that Peter's identity has been outed in the next movie, and so maybe the multiverse is him looking for help as to how he continues to be Spider-Man when his identity is out there or something like that. I don't know.
Right. I always feel like too, though, with that, they could easily. There's so many. They could undo that in 5 minutes with a scroll. Just have the scroll turn into Peter Parker, and then
have them stand next to each other,
and have Spider-Man swing by, and then like catch a car, so you can prove that it's him, but it's really like it could be either or. Like the scroll could catch the car, and Peter could just be standing there. The scroll could be Peter, and like I mean, either way,
vice versa. Fine.
Yeah, they could just be like 5 minutes. Like glad that was taken care of. Like or they could actually make it a. He's like, I always wanted when they introduced that. Just like a lot of the fanboys out there, I totally agreed with them. Like, it'd be really cool if, Matt Murdock was his lawyer when they're kind of going through this stuff, and they could introduce Daredevil in the Spider-Man movie, because that would just be cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's probably just as easy to be like, we don't want to do that anymore. Kind of like the whole Iron Man 3 PTSD stuff. Just like, we're just going to ignore it. Like, keep making all this stuff. So, I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, though. But in the end, the question is for you guys, what do you think this means? Do you think, like we kind of said, there's like 50 different things this could really mean as far as Jamie Foxx coming back as Electro, either a reprisal of the role itself or him coming back to play like a new Electro, but being a different character, even though it's the same character. I find that to be more confusing from a narrative standpoint, as opposed to it's just him, he's back, and like here's why. I feel like that's a lot cleaner. You could do more with it. And like I said, bring back just lean full heavy into the Spider-Verse or multiverse stuff, especially in light of, the Doctor Strange stuff coming out. Maybe they're doing that. Whatever it is, guys, you let us know down in the comments section below.